Live from the top of the beautiful towers at Merle Hay Mall, all 6 stories of it, it's FaithWorks Live!
Let's listen to Mikey. He has great guests on his show. Let's listen to Mikey. You'll learn things you didn't know. Let's call in to Mikey and ask him a question or two. Because I know that Mikey wants to hear from you.
And you're listening to Mikey. It's Friday, and it's FaithWorks Live, and I'm so glad that you are joining us today on the radio. And in studio with me is the one, the only, Chris Roloff.
I knew you were going to do that.
And Jen Green.
He's kind of a big deal.
Yes, he is. And he had to do his own mic today, and
Poor
that was a
guy.
drag.
I stole his little adapter.
Yeah.
Well, let's face it, I'm more important than he is. At least just for now.
Jen Green is
Hi.
here. That's so awesome. And we are being produced by Chris Brass.
That's
So
good, too.
We got a nice full studio today, and I spent hours earlier today in Indianola at the parking lot at Walmart. And I have a storage container there that has like thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of fireworks that my family is going to be selling whenever we get a tent.
You're one of those.
I'm one of them.
I got it. Yeah.
And
we talked about firework safety on my show this morning.
Did you really?
Yes, we did. About what is safe and what is not. Shooting them in the vicinity of a vehicle, not safe.
Not safe.
Not
I
safe.
agree. And as a fireworks seller now, I would encourage people to safely discharge all of their explosive devices and make sure they do that, with all the precautions taken necessary. But hey, I got to say this. I love fireworks, and even though I am dead beat tired, because you have no idea how heavy some of that stuff is, every time I opened a box, I would just open it and I would smile because it was like a box of love. Right there, as I looked at these fireworks, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so incredibly cool.
Such a guy thing. See, I don't like them.
I
don't like them at all.
Everything. I mean, we have literally $50,000 worth of product, and I was like, I could let all of this off.
No.
I could just
kind of defeat the purpose.
I know, but it would be so much fun.
So how many days until the 4th of July?
Right now, there's 12. 11 tomorrow, but counting today, there's 12.
And there's 6 hours that you're allowed to set those off?
I don't know. I think it's like 30 minutes.
I think it's from, 4 to 10 on the 4th of July.
Yeah,
you're allowed to let them out.
No, in the Des Moines Metro, though, it's a little bit longer. I think it's like from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till,
Okay.
10
You might
o'clock
want
at
to double check with that.
Yeah.
Because the fines are rather steep.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. And listen, okay.
Freedom with a caveat.
Yes, but listen.
Legal with a caveat.
We have had our neighbor. I mean, I got some neighbors on my street that let off fireworks that this is like, in competition with the iCubs Stadium on Friday night.
And they do it every year.
Shooting them up in our
And they've been
neighborhood
doing it every year, legal or not.
Every year. No, and these are not legal. But we love our neighbors.
It's biblical.
Yes.
I just got one question. You said it's at you're selling them at the Walmart parking lot?
In Indianola, Iowa.
In Indianola.
This is Big Mac's Fireworks. Come and get your explosive devices today.
Do they still sell the Snap-on models inside the Walmart by chance? Not that I'm trying to imply anything. But
the what?
The Snap-on models, like the airplane models and the
rocket ship about
models.
launching fireworks. See, this is boy talk.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, there you go. Chris
the
Roloff,
other boy in the room is like that.
Chris
I
Roloff
have no idea.
He's going to be exploding fireworks for the first time. He needs to be.
This may be, yeah. I'm a watcher, I like watching them
Me
and
too.
then going home. That's
from the
nice.
inside of my house, behind a window.
Away from the fire.
Well,
yep. Inside. My daughter, when she was little, we took her to see the really nice firework display in West Des Moines. And the sound that they make when they are discharged, it's kind of that. And then when they go up into the air, it goes boom.
It's a happy sound.
And then it just lights up the sky.
And it crackles.
So at 2 years old, my daughter started calling fireworks Chickaboom Sky. And that's what she has been calling the Chickaboom Sky, because
I
that's the
love
sound that it
that.
makes. And
That is
every
nice.
4th of July, Scott had a special place on a hill in West Des Moines where he would take her, and we could see the great display over Raccoon River.
Nice.
Yeah, see, good
Well,
memories.
Chickaboom sky.
Chickaboom Sky.
Well, you know what? July 4th, 1990. Wow. No, 1989. July 4th, 1989.
That was a good year.
I handed, who is now my wife, a daisy that was growing in the grass. And we had not really professed our love for each other, but I gave that daisy to her on July 4th, 1989.
So
And
it's a special day for you.
that kind of like
I
was
thought
where,
you were gonna. I thought Daisy was a kind of firework or something like that, and this was
No.
going to end with an explosion. But it kind of did.
It was, yeah, it kind of did. 'Cause I was all tingly inside.
You professed your love over a daisy.
I did.
Did you take?
And you know
I
what?
love
To this
you. I
day-
love you not.
to
I love
this-
you. I
no.
love you not.
To this day,
I love you.
a daisy is her favorite flower for real. Oh, so if
that
I
is
got her
so
a bunch
sweet.
of daisies, she would just go goofy.
You married up.
I did.
Oh yeah, Shannon's amazing.
That's well, you know, and that was a really nice condescending thing to say to me that I married up, because I did. I agree with you, but you know.
But you
that
guys have
means-
made it work all these years, and it's probably because you figured out each other's love languages. How's that for a transition, ladies and gentlemen
was
in
good.
Radio Land?
Yes.
That was really, really good,
I know.
actually.
It's like I do this for a living.
I want to ask you this: have you ever had the experience of being in another country
Yes.
and you don't know the language
Yes.
and you're trying to get things communicated? Maybe you got to go to the bathroom, and you haven't
I
learned.
can really communicate that one without language. That probably
You hope
there's
so.
universal gestures you can make that they can figure that one out.
Pee pee. Do you understand? Pee pee. But there is some challenges
Yes.
when you're in another country and you don't know the language and you want to communicate something. You
It's
know, sometimes
extraordinarily frustrating,
it is.
especially for somebody who likes to talk as much as I do. When people don't understand me, that's very sad for me.
I can see how that would be. I can see how that would be the case. But I liken this to the fact that I think a lot of marriages are like that. They're stuck in that experience of, I'm in a foreign country right now, and I'm trying to understand you.
But I don't know what
I
language
want
you're
you to
speaking.
understand me, but we are not hearing each other.
Yep.
And that is where a lot of marriages kind of stall and
Yeah.
they stay in that place. And that's really, really a challenge. Now, Gary Chapman wrote this book, and I think about every church in America has done this as a small group study at least. And
I think they should. I think they should continue to. My husband and I did this study when we were in I think it was our second or third year of marriage, and it was a eureka moment. I mean, I remember doing this in a small group and reading a chapter out loud with 6 couples and looking across at him. And I mean, literally, there was like a light bulb over both of our heads going, oh, I get it now.
Exactly.
I mean, there are many married couples that owe a debt of gratitude to Gary Chapman, because all of a sudden it wasn't the Tower of Babel anymore. We were all actually speaking to each other again.
The Tower of Babel. I love it. That's right. So, Chris, are you in the Tower of Babel?
Chris is doodling over there.
I'm drawing my fireworks display. I'm trying to lay out where I'm going to put the magic bean.
Sorry. Are we babbling too much for you? You've
No,
read
you're
read the
fine.
Love Languages book, yes?
I have. I was making a note. You know, I think it's one of the things that I observed when actually I didn't read it. That would be a lie. So my wife has actually read it, and she told me everything I need to know.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, my love language is not reading a book.
Love Languages listening.
I enjoy listening, not reading the book. But one of the things I observed actually through her was that most of the time we read the love language book to discover our own love language. You ever notice that? Most people pick that up and they go, okay, that's me, and now you must be this way for me.
Well, that's not how Gary writes the book. He
No.
does write it in such a way that you are supposed to also determine your spouse's
Right.
love language.
You
as
are,
well.
and then we also kind of took it the next level, and this is probably where we're going to go today, and that is, it teaches us how to love our neighbors.
Yes.
Our children, our neighbors, our extended family.
Right.
Right.
And that
So-
they're- go ahead, Mike. No, go right ahead. I'll go back to doodling.
Thanks.
Fireworks.
Being the host, I was just going to say something. But I got to tell you, when I had the experience of going through this study, and this was a study that I led, so I was kind of like reading and leading at the same time, as we went through the study with some folks in our church for the very first time. I've done it a couple of times. But the very first time, it was just like you. It was like, this is what's been wrong.
Exactly.
I'm such a clod.
Really, it was like mind-blowing. The fact that other people can experience love differently than I do. Who would have thought? I thought I was the center of the universe. Apparently not. Wow. And the fact that he didn't understand the love language that I was putting down, and I wasn't picking up what he was putting down either, and we were just not communicating at all. And both of us had empty love tanks at that point, and we had a small child, and that was not, it was a newborn. She was a newborn. That was not a good time to not be on the same page. So I've always said that Gary Chapman's book was a marriage saver for us.
That's awesome. That seriously is cool. So I guess we want to be able, because we don't have a lot of time right now, and so in the next segment we're going to come back and we're going to kind of outline the 5, because there's 5.
People might be thinking, you might be thinking, what love language are you talking about? There's actually 5 different languages in which people speak and feel love.
Exactly.
Vulcan is one.
Oh my word!
Klingon.
Only
Klingon.
No, it's not.
Star Trek.
No Star Trek references.
No.
Carry on.
Romulan.
They don't have any love for anybody.
Yeah,
Come on.
And the Borg, they're all just like,
Ferengis. Whoa! I just pulled that one out. I don't know where. I know Ferengi. I remember that word. That's Star Trek,
I
right?
instantly imagine the large ears.
And didn't they like to have them rubbed?
They did. That was their love language, was the rubbing of the ears.
I can't
The
believe
rubbing
I
of the
just
ears.
went there.
This is totally on track. It's
Yeah.
so relevant.
yeah. So
Focus.
Oh, thank goodness Chris is putting up the one finger.
that means we have less than a minute to get out
Please
of this
clarify.
mess.
The appropriate finger.
The number one.
The number one.
That's what I said. The one finger. Oh my goodness, you guys! It's Friday.
It is
Friday. And I want you to know that I love you in all 5 languages. And when we come back and in the next segment, we're going to unpack those 5 different languages for you so that you know what they are. If you've never been exposed to this idea, I think that many churches, like I said, across America have gone through some kind of a study where it's been based out of Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages. And we're going to look at exactly what those are, because to be honest with you, I'm not just like one. I'm like a couple, and sometimes more than that even on the given day.
You are complicated.
I am. I'm a mess.
You're listening to 99.3 FM The Truth, where we don't just rock the gospel, we talk the gospel. So join the conversation by calling or texting 515-727-KTIA.
And I'm Mike Damastis. I am the host of FaithWorks Live, and I'm trying to get a word in edgewise today on Friday. We're talking about some great things like love languages.
Talk about love.
We're Dr. Love.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's going south.
Yeah.
So we discussed in the last session this whole idea of the fact that it's kind of a eureka thing to learn that maybe the way that your spouse emotes, feels, and expresses, and desires love is in a way that's different than yours. And I think in general we understand that, but Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Languages, really kind of, I think, unpacks that idea in such a helpful way that a lot of couples like myself and Jen go through it and we're like, oh my goodness, this makes so much sense.
Yep.
And
Truly
so
did.
I want to discuss the 5 love languages and just kind of go over them with you in case you're not familiar with them. Again, this comes from The 5 Love Languages, a book by that title by Gary Chapman. And here they are. The first one is gift giving.
Giving and receiving gifts.
Yes.
Yes, that's actually my daughter's.
That's your daughter.
That is my daughter's love language. She has always, since she was old enough to, brought us, little gifts, little things that she would draw, or little flowers, or, a ribbon. And she just completely lights up and feels love when we give her little or big things. So giving and receiving gifts is actually my daughter's love language.
Right. And it's not mine.
Not mine.
And it's not my wife's.
Not my husband's.
Neither one of us. Now, I will say this. Having said that, I really have to give a quid pro quo. I really like getting gifts.
So maybe it's on there somewhere.
But it's not my thing. I mean, it's not, you know what I mean? I love it when people get me stuff. You know, like I get a good friend that, you know, stocks up a studio fridge with Coke Zero and sends me a picture of that just saying, hey, Mike, we got Coke Zero in the studio fridge.
And you feel love.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
And that's awesome. I think that's great. But that genuinely, it's not necessarily something I would say is my love language, because there are greater things that I feel better than that.
Well, let me ask you this question. When you receive a gift is one thing, giving a gift is another thing. You talked about your daughter enjoys both getting and receiving gifts. I think most people enjoy receiving gifts so long as they're quality things, right? I mean, if it's something you want or like, right? I mean,
Yes,
if you just
sure.
give me a stick of gum and, you know, and that's all there is. I appreciate it, but
we could go on a whole psychological jag about some people don't like getting gifts because then they feel the guilt of having to reciprocate
there
or
is
not
that.
deserving it. So, yeah, I just can tell you, watching my daughter as she's grown up in the last 15 years, giving and receiving gifts is definitely her love language.
So let me ask you this question, though, is if, like Mike, does enjoy giving gifts actually quite a bit. It's something that I've seen him do, and it brings him a lot of joy to give gifts. If you have somebody in your life that enjoys doing that, is it right to assume that they probably have that love language if they're doing it?
Yeah. You're kind of jumping the gun a
Yeah?
little bit, but yes.
I didn't get a bullet, so.
If you watch somebody over a long period of time, you can kind of tell what their love language is by the things that light them up and the things that they complain about too, as well. And Dr. Chapman talks about that in his book. But yes, a lot of this has to do with observation. And sometimes you know your spouse actually better than they do. And again, that's a whole other topic of the conversation that's probably for later. If we don't go through all the love languages, we might not get through all the love languages.
Right.
So
And
would you like to move on?
I would like to move on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll
No,
just
it's
sit back
okay.
over here and doodle.
You're fine. You're fine.
No, it's okay.
I can talk quickly.
I'm fine.
Could we spend some quality time though right now for real, just together? I would like that.
Sarcasm isn't one of them.
Quality time is, though.
It is.
Yeah.
There you go.
And quality time is one that I've actually seen in my house. My son. Quality time. Can we do this? Can you come hang out with me? Can we come watch me? Come do this. And you can see the cues. Quality time is definitely one of my son's love languages.
Absolutely. Just being together is a big deal for some people. Here's another one. Words of affirmation.
I love this one. Say nice things to me. Say nice things about
Jen,
me.
You are one of the most interesting people I've ever met.
Which is a totally backhanded compliment.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Words of affirmation is that is a powerful love language. I like that one.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
And it's essentially just saying kind and nice things.
And as we're going through this, I'm hoping you're kind of listening and thinking, yeah, that's kind of me. I think that's me. How about this one? Acts of service.
Oh, yes.
Where
Anybody that ever watched Everybody Loves Raymond, one of my favorite scenes was when Raymond got a new vacuum cleaner and he is in his living room and he is vacuuming the curtains. And Deborah walks in and she just stands there and he stops and he turns and looks at her and she says, I have never wanted you more. And it's pretty obvious that she's an acts of service kind of gal. And I totally dig that.
It was, I love that show, by the way.
Me too.
Such a good show. We watched it, like, we've Netflixed that show like 8 times through the whole thing.
Oh, my word.
Just
So
like-
you know the episode of which I speak.
I know the episode of which
She
you
is
speak.
very much an acts of service kind of gal, but you
Yes.
can see that, she's got all those children and she needs help and she feels love when she gets that help.
And here is one that, hey, kind of rings a bell with me. Physical touch.
Rings a bell with most guys.
That's very stereotypical of you to say.
Is it true?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
That's why it's a
Yes,
stereotype.
it is.
Physical touch. And here's the thing. Okay, you're listening in the car. You're like, yeah, guys, always go to the old SEX word. That's not what it's
It's not
about for me.
necessarily that, yeah,
No,
no.
Right.
you know what? Genuinely, I mean, this is for real. if I'm sitting next to my wife and she like reaches up and puts her hand on the back of my head, or she reaches over and just grabs my hand, those kind of things, even to this day, just make me all tingly inside.
Yeah. Whereas if I were driving to the movies and my husband puts his hand on my knee, I'm like, and I pick it up and I put it back. Like, don't stop it.
Don't you touch me. Don't.
Not my love language.
No touch for you.
His.
And I think that's a good point too, because that's where guys get pigeonholed into thinking that they have the love language of physical touch, and many men don't. They actually don't like physical contact, but they do like sex quite a bit.
Well,
so they're fine with that.
I love the fact that we're spelling it.
Yes, he did it first. I'm just doing what he did. Just trying to be, the
kind. Host.
There are Baptists listening, okay?
There are.
I'm trying to be safe here.
So there are 5 love languages.
Yes, gift giving, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service, and physical touch. One of those 5. Now, we've got about a minute to go here, so we're not going to jump into this and answering this, but I do want to bring up a subject, and this is something that one of our listeners is saying right now on Facebook Live, and Kelly had just asked, and this is a great question, because this is where a lot of people are. What if I know my spouse's love language? My spouse knows my love language,
but he's not speaking it.
But he will not speak mine. Mm-hmm. It's like, you ever been at the restaurant when you're like, why don't they just speak English? You ever heard that? And they you got people that refuse to even try to learn another language. Well, that happens in marriages, and we want to talk about that when we come back from the break, because that can be a really difficult challenge. So what's your love language? Have you figured it out, one of the 5? Why don't you give us a call or text us? What is your love language? What do you think your spouse's is? 515-727-KTIA.
From Altoona to Windsor Heights, you can hear us, so why not join us? Call or text today at 515-727-KTIA.
If you're like me, you're tired of the way people bicker and argue about politics. What's worse, you're discouraged by leaders who abandon their principles to play political games. Surely there has got to be a better way to lead our country. There is. I want to tell you about an encouraging and inspiring event that's challenging all of us to rethink what it means to stand for principle over politics. The Family Leadership Summit in Des Moines, Iowa on the 15th of July is an annual get-together of thousands of Americans with a heart for God and a heart for America. People who go to this summit consistently come back saying how encouraged they are to know that they're not alone, that so many are yearning and working toward an honest-to-goodness revival in our nation. It is the church doing what the church is supposed to be doing. Not afraid of government, but not playing politics either. It's the church standing up to speak biblical truth to power, principle over politics. The summit speakers this year come from the spheres of government, entertainment, and the church, each discussing how to navigate leadership while staying true to your values. The speaker list includes George Barna, counselor to the president Kellyanne Conway, the Benham brothers, Pastor Jim Garlow, U.S. Senators Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst, and many more. So won't you join me for a day of faith-affirming, culture-changing inspiration? To learn more and to purchase your tickets, go to thefamilyleadershipsummit.com. That's thefamilyleadershipsummit.com. So here we are in the studio today on FaithWorks Live talking about love languages. And we learned that most guys are clods.
Oh, that's not
because
true.
We're related to Adam. He was made out of dust, so that's why we're a clod. Okay, it's theological. Secondly, we learned that I think it's a general statement, like you said. Generally, a lot of guys are physical touch. Mm-hmm. That's maybe in there, and that's
one of their love languages.
A lot of gals that we could say as a general acts of service. Mm-hmm. And I thank God in his amazing wisdom and glory, who also created senses of humor, sometimes sits back in heaven
and laughs as we all try to make sense of it.
Yes. Because you got, if you went through like Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey, you've got the spenders and you got the savers. And usually those are the two that marry each other.
Opposites attract.
Yes. Before marriage, opposites attract. After marriage, opposites attack.
Oh, no, that's awful.
That's the truth.
Oh.
It's the truth, isn't it?
But maybe we wouldn't be attacking if we learned each other's love languages and
Right.
understood it.
Right.
Now, you can't automatically start feeling the other person's love language. It is, you are built a certain way.
Right.
And you do not have to have the same love language your entire life. As the mother of two very small children, I would have said acts of service was my primary and secondary love language. My children are now older. Acts of service still ranks up there, but I would say now words of affirmation are important.
Wow.
And I'm going to be extremely blunt here, all right? As a woman in my mid-40s in a Western culture, we have a tendency to get replaced. We have a tendency to age out as the younger generation comes in. And that happens in marriages. It happens at work. It happens in friends group, in leadership group at church, as we know we're constantly looking to reach out to the next generation. Words of affirmation do become extremely important the older you get as a woman. Now, that's me, but I have a feeling some other women are listening to me going, yeah, I get it.
So I will say this. When I learned this stuff, all of a sudden some things started clicking in my head. Like, I always thought it was weird that I would be, at the end of the evening, sitting in my recliner and just enjoying myself. There's something on TV.
In mindless pursuit of entertainment.
And my wife would be up, picking up anything that's around
Cleaning
and putting
up the
away
kitchen.
the dishes. Yes,
Yep.
and cleaning up the kitchen. And
Neating up the house. Picking up the
Increasingly-
stuff that you had left behind.
increasingly getting
Louder.
frustrated as she did this. And yes, and things would be, slamming.
Sigh. You can hear her eyes rolling.
And so I always wondered, why do you do this to yourself? Just sit down like me. It would be so much easier if you just sat here with me and enjoy it. You put yourself through so much stress, not getting any of it, that my wife was wanting me to pick up on the clue that, hey, you clod, I need some help here.
Well, her love tank was empty. She
Yes.
needed it to be filled with you doing some acts of service.
And recognizing, and actually like looking away from the TV and recognizing that, there's some stuff I could help out around the house with here.
But imagine that Shannon was doing that. You read the book. You figured out what her love language was, that it was acts of service. And then you chose to still not do it.
And that does happen. And that was what one of our listeners posited as she's watching on Facebook Live. And she was like, what if we know each other's love languages, but my spouse won't recognize mine. My spouse won't speak to me in my love language. What do we say, Chris Roloff, to that individual?
Poor Chris, that's a hard one.
Gee whiz, I'm just sitting over here minding my own business, and you guys have
How
fun
are the
with
doodles
story
coming?
time. Oh, not as well as you might think. I don't draw well. We did talk about this a little bit in the break, I think, and sometimes, and obviously it depends on what your love language is to a degree, right?
Yes.
Because not all love languages are the same.
Right.
How you communicate them and all that kind of stuff. And there's other things that might go along. Again, physical touch being one of those. Some people, physical touch is not just not their love language. It is something that is painful for them.
Sure, because of something that's happened in their past.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so physical intimacy could just be very difficult.
Right. And if they're married to somebody who has physical touch as a love language, that could be very difficult.
It could be. And and another one actually is finances. And I'd like to dig into this some more. I'm not an expert in this at all, but I've been fascinated, just like there are these 5 love languages. More and more books are written about the different personalities of money. You think about Dave Ramsey, and there's really just the spenders and savers. But really, there's a lot more depth of diversity when it comes to the issue of money. Mm-hmm. And so if your love language...
There's 2.
Oh, okay. Sorry. If your love language might be gifts or giving and receiving gifts, and you're married to somebody who just has that as the idea of spending money is just... It's painful to them as well. That could be another thing. They don't like the idea of giving gifts. I know that if I gave you a gift, you would feel like, you just feel like $1 million, right? You'd feel important, you'd feel loved, but the idea of spending money is so painful and hard and difficult and scary for me that it's could be border on impossible or feel impossible to do. And I think we talked about in the break, that's one of the things about loving one another. It's an understatement to say it's sacrificial, but sometimes we need to recognize that people are required or being asked to make a larger sacrifice to love someone.
So when, say, your spouse's love language is gift, receiving gifts, and you know that she feels loved and affirmed when you do that for her, and you go the extra mile and don't get the regular plastic cup at Quick Trip that's 79 cents, you go 89 cents for the styrofoam cup.
Oh, yeah.
She should feel the love.
No, totally, because that helps your drink stay cooler. I mean, it's a proven thing.
The ice stays ice longer.
It does. It retains its iceness.
I feel like I just transported into a Twilight Zone. I'm sitting between two clods of dirt. I mean, seriously. But just to go back to Kelly's question, the question on the table is this. If your spouse won't speak your love language, number one, that's hard. And there is no easy, pithy answer to that question. Number two, you are only ever responsible for you. A companion book to the 5 love languages should be Dr. Cloud and Townsend's Boundaries book, because you are only ever responsible for you. Once you figure out what your love language is, okay, you know it, you bookmark it. But when you learn your spouse's love language, then it's your responsibility as a partner in that marriage to speak their love language. You can only do what you can do. You can't try to manipulate him through using his love language. You can just choose to love him. Our God is a God of motivation. I would hope and pray that at some point God would bless your motivation and your continued sacrifice. Unfortunately, we live in a fallen world. It doesn't always end like a rom-com. It doesn't always happen that way. But God sees what you're doing and he knows.
And I would just add pastorally, what you're saying lines up with what Paul says. As far as it is possible with you, live at peace with all men. Mm-hmm. And I would tell you, typically the woman, the wife, who is doing this, and you feel empty inside, Christ has to be your husband. You have to do what you do and continue. And I'm telling you this, it's hard to continue to speak a language that is not native to you. Right. Not for your husband, but for Jesus.
Do it unto the Lord.
And that's when I'm telling you, you can ultimately, hopefully, see some change occur, but it's hard. And I want to recognize, just like Jen did, that's hard. There's no doubt about it. So what about you? What is your love language? We want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us, 515-727-KTIA.
From the East Mixmaster to the West Mixmaster and beyond, you're listening to 99.3 The Truth. Now it's time to join in. Give us a call at 515-727-KTIA.
I'm Mike Damastis. I'm the host of FaithWorks Live, and we are talking love languages today. And we have been discussing the challenge that it can be when you understand this process of, hey, my husband's love language is quality time, and mine is words of affirmation, and he has not told me in a long time. Yeah, anything nice. And
my love language is when somebody turns my microphone on. I do like that.
I am
makes me
so
happy.
sorry.
Thank you, Chris. No, I feel loved now that you turned my microphone off. You could have chosen to keep it off.
Well, that is a difficult challenge, and we just wanted to encourage you to remember to do what you do, to speak a language not native to you, to speak the love language of your spouse, even when you're not having that be reciprocated. To do that not for your spouse, but for Christ.
It's probably far more common than actually, two couples walking around with. I keep using the term love tank. I'm not weird. That's actually what Dr. Chapman calls it in the book. But if you think of a gas tank, being for me, after my husband, he goes on these productivity jags where, I don't know, he wakes up one morning and he just does so much stuff all at once. And, my love tank just goes, whoa! I'm like way at the top and I'm feeling good. I literally feel myself calm down. I'm happy. I'm in a good place. I feel loved, and then sometimes that love tank goes down, and it's very important to be able to communicate to your spouse when you are feeling low. It is not good for you to make snide comments, sigh, roll your eyes, make veiled comments. Just speak to them and say, you know what?
Hold a knife when you're talking angrily to your
No,
spouse.
it's
any
like,
of those things.
You know that my love language is acts of service or giving and receiving gifts or quality time. And, we just haven't had that in a long time. And I'm feeling kind of low. Do you think there's something that we could do together? Is there a way that I can help you fill up my love tank, dude?
Can I help you?
Because Mama's not
help me
feeling
feel
it
better?
right now, and that's not good, right? I think it's important to not use innuendos and side comments, and we women sometimes wish that men could read between the lines, but you don't. You weren't built that way. We need to be able to speak words kindly and lovingly, but clearly to our spouses.
And I think that's a really, really great point, because especially if you're introducing yourself to this concept, and this is something that I have seen pastorally, and couples that I've counseled through the years, is that a guy, usually he's the problem, a guy will start trying, and so say what I've done is I challenged the wife, hey, tell him.
Yep.
Just let him know. Hey, honey, I'm going to get ready to start going to bed, and there's a few things that need to be picked up, and the trash needs to be. Could you help me? And so instead of wanting him to see it, help him see it by telling him.
Or give him a list. I know a lot of guys roll their eyes, but just say, okay, I'm going to give you a list of 5 things. Do you think that maybe by the end of the weekend, give him a time frame, you could get at least 3 of these things on this list done? And then you walk away and you let them, and this is specifically for those women who have acts of service as their love language. I've read up a lot on it.
Well, I think that honestly, that communication side of this is really kind of a very important part of this puzzle, because men don't see it. Like I said, I remember genuinely early on in our marriage when my wife would be frustrated. Like I described that scene for you, and that's a scene I think that a lot of people can identify with because you've been there. And the guy's like, why are you doing this to yourself? And she's like, why are you not helping me?
Right.
And the fact is that neither one of them are really communicating in a way where they can hear each other.
But in this scenario, you have a gentleman whose love language is physical touch. And so once Shannon's done, slamming around the kitchen and finally cleaning up the mess that you helped make, and she goes and sits down on the couch, all of a sudden you want to put your arm around her or you want to hold her hand, and her love tank is so low, all she wants to do is sock you. And so that's where we have the problems, because we're not communicating with each other.
Right. And I do like physical touch, but not with her hands around my neck.
That's not the right kind.
It's the wrong kind of physical touch. Not that she would do that. But not that she's probably thought that.
Okay, Mike, we get it. She's perfect. We know.
No, she's thought that. But listen, I think that it's really important to just simply communicate these things. And guys, we can feel like we have tried. We can feel like we have put it out there, and we're not having a reciprocation on that. And that's hard, because we'll think in our mind, okay, listen, Wednesday, 3 weeks ago, I took the trash out.
Yes.
And then there's nothing.
Yeah, that's not enough. That's probably not enough. And if you're listening right now as a gentleman and you think to yourself, I don't like to read, I don't want to read, I want you to know that you could go to Wikipedia and you can read about the 5 love languages. Yes. And you can utilize the information that is just on Wikipedia to make a huge difference.
And stinking buy the audiobook.
That's true. And my husband did that, not with the 5 love languages, but with another book that changed our lives. It was a book by John and Stacey Eldridge called Captivating, which someday I'd love to talk about that book. He actually listened to that book, because reading's not his thing, but he listened to it, and the stuff is important.
I honestly, just as a side note, just in terms of the way I kind of process stuff, most of the time when I do my Bible reading, it's Bible listening.
Really?
I listen to it audio-wise. And and all of my own daily devotions, that's how I do it.
But the fact is, as you brought up during the break last time, love is not like the movies. We are most likely not going to find somebody to marry that has the exact same love language as we are. And so we have to learn to speak another love language. And that could be one that we really don't care for. But love is work. Love is a choice. Love is hard. Marriage is hard. And if you want to have a good one, you got to put a little bit of work in on the front end.
Right. I can't remember the pastor that wrote the book, Your Wife Is Not Your Mama. Wellington Boone, is that his name?
I have never heard of that book, and I hope I never see it.
Oh, it is such a good book.
Is it really?
It is. It's
That's
a great
scary
book.
title.
I know. But you're going in a place that it shouldn't be. But it's just the idea of a guy that, marries a woman that wants her to do everything his mama did for him.
Ah,
You know what I
yes.
mean? Wants his, wants his laundry done and his, his meals cooked and everything else. But that's not why you marry.
Right.
You don't marry. That's not what help meet means. It's like, I feel like that lady on the Facebook commercial, that's not what any of this means. But that's not it at all. And a lot of guys, honestly, that's what they want.
It works. It's not how any of this works.
Exactly. Chris Roloff, you
that was over my head. I
haven't seen
the
that
video.
commercial?
No,
That's a
I
Geico
apologize.
commercial.
I
They
know.
have all the best commercials.
don't they though?
Have you ever seen Mr. Mom, the movie Mr.
Yes.
Mom
Yes.
with Michael
Yes.
Keaton when the
Yes.
woman's like, "You're doing it wrong," when
Yes.
he's dropping the kids off? You're doing it wrong. That's what I would say to people who are trying to do marriage and only speaking one love language and think it's working both ways. You're doing it wrong.
Yes, exactly.
One of my experiences with the love language book is many people, and we're kind of doing it even in this broadcast, so I want to say a hard thing. It's really easy to read these and internalize it. Say, I want to read this book, and here are my love languages, and we need them filled up. And it's very easy to be selfish in marriage, right?
Sure
I mean, that's
is.
kind of what you guys are talking about. But if we can get outside of ourselves and stop obsessing as much about what my particular love language is, which one of these is mine, and you need to give to me, but just go ahead and move forward with loving the other person.
That's
That's the command. Christ said to love your neighbor, so go do that. Not so much love yourself.
It's true. It's
Well-
true. It's like doing one of those Cosmo quizzes. I love to find out about myself. I don't really care about finding out about anybody else. But if you really want the love language book to work, you need to read it to try to find out what your spouse's love language is.
Cosmo Kramer from Seinfeld? Is that what we're talking about?
Never mind.
That he did quizzes?
Never mind.
I'm just confused. Anyways, so here's the deal, though. I challenge young couples whenever I'm doing premarital counseling on this, and I typically look at the guy because it needs to sink in.
You're
There's-
particularly
it's like a
hard on the
really
gentleman, aren't you?
Hard forehead.
I think
typically
we
for stuff
women
go
need to
through.
be knocked up upside the head
I'm-
every
I'm
once in a
good.
while,
But
too.
listen,
I'm good.
listen.
You're good.
I'm good.
I believe that the challenge we have before us in marriage is that we need to outserve each other. And for a guy, it's a much harder challenge because women kick our butts at this. They just do. They are wired to do this. And so for a guy, it's harder. And so when I tell a young man, I'm like, dude, try to outserve her. And if you do that, if you literally are trying to do more service for her than she's doing for you, I'm telling you, you are going to have a powerful marriage.
But make sure you're doing it in a language that she understands.
yeah, that's
Because otherwise you'll get torqued off. Because if you think that your wife's language is service, but you just like woodworking and you love working around the house and she doesn't care, you're going to get mad. I'm doing this for you, woman. I'm doing this for you.
Figure out her love language, his love language, and learn to speak it.
That's the challenge of today. And hey, I hope that you were encouraged by what we discussed. Thank you for everybody that was joining in, especially Kelly. I just want you to know I'm praying for you, and I know it's tough, but hang in there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of FaithWorks Live, and we hope that you have a great weekend. Go see Big Mike's Fireworks in Indianola Walmart parking lot.
Oh, my word.
This is Bob Vanderplatz. I invite you to join.